All right, we're gonna go
Sure.
ahead and start YouTube. So we're. Do you want to be tagged or no?
Yeah, you can do that.
Do you follow the Misguidance podcast?
I rarely get on Facebook, but I will approve this later.
All right, what's your last name?
Norwood. Norwood. Yeah, that's me with one of my babes.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right, let's get the intro queued up. I believe, are we on bank number? Excuse me again. We're bank number 4.
What is
Oh my.
Just where the music is.
All right. We got that. We got that. We got that. We're good. We'll mute that. Okay. We are live on on YouTube. Start recording on OBS. We'll start on you. So you're going to kick us off.
Sure.
All right. Let's go live on Facebook. Okay, live on Facebook. Go live on Instagram. Okay, live on Instagram. Statistics. Live stream. Good, 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 good. Okay, we're going to start recording on the mixer in 5, 4, 3.
Welcome to the Misguidance Podcast, where your hosts Daniel, Lana,
And on occasion, Morgan.
serve up a weekly slice of life's chaos casserole. We're like that GPS that confidently yells, recalculating, just as you pass the last exit before the toll.
Join us and our guests as we navigate the potholes of personal predicaments and maybe, just maybe, find the right exit together.
Stay tuned and remember, every misstep is just a detour on the road to wisdom. Or at least that's what we tell ourselves.
All right, welcome to the Misguidance Podcast. We have Daniel here, of course, and then we have Ashby with us.
Hello, hello. What's up, Ashby?
I'm excited to be here. This is my
Yes.
first time on a podcast.
This is your
Ooh.
first podcast ever. Okay.
Yes.
All right, all right.
Glad to have you.
Yeah.
So tell us about yourself. What do you do? Who are you? What is an Ashby?
There's actually several Ashbys.
Yeah.
And this is my middle name. I grew up being called Sarah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow. One of
And
those
then-
changed.
Yeah.
When did the change happen?
When I was 17.
Can we ask what happened?
Oh, I just decided to remake myself
Got it.
and be a little bit more true to myself. And I think Ashby was a little bit more interesting,
Cool.
and Sarah was a little more ordinary.
Yeah.
yeah.
There's always several of them, and I had to differentiate myself between the other Sarahs.
Oh, okay.
So, and nobody else is named Ashby, so that was easy.
Yeah.
Were you like a creative type? Were you very like
Yes.
Yeah?
From the beginning.
Yeah. And we're going to jump into that in a little bit about the glass.
Oh,
I'm
all
excited
kinds
to talk
of
about
arts.
that. Yeah.
I met someone one time that said that the kind of artist that they were was a con artist. That they could do anything. You're just taking something that oftentimes could be trash, and then you're transforming it, and you're making it valuable, and other people are going to trade whatever you've made from collected materials, and they give you money for it. So it's kind of a con.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah. I have a small business where I take literal trash and turn it into things. I mean, stuff that was going to
I
be
didn't
thrown
know that.
away. Yeah.
What is that? What kind of stuff do you do?
I work mostly with books. It's called Book Cycled. So it's upcycling books. I turn them into purses a lot. People
Okay.
really like
See?
that. You take a hardback book and you line it with some fabric, glue it up, and it's pretty cool.
What's your glue of choice?
E6000.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I'm feeling crazy, I'll get into the power tack, but
Oh,
it-
man.
dries a little faster.
No hot glue?
No,
Good woman.
I
Good
want
woman.
it to withstand the test of time.
All right. Ashby,
Yes.
tell us a little bit about, so at 17, you went from Sarah to Ashby.
Which
Tell
is
us,
my middle name.
which is your middle name. Okay. So tell us a little bit about what it was like when you were going through that, and tell us a little bit about, I want to get to know you. I know you from other things, but I don't really know you. And I want to know you. So tell us a little bit about exactly who you are, and who you are. Let's dive into it.
Oh, okay. Well, I grew up here in Jackson.
Yeah.
Both my parents grew up all over the world. They were Army brats and Navy brats. And so they always told us, and like I knew about the outside world. I wasn't just like with the closed-minded, everything's all about Jackson, Mississippi.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to get out as soon as I could. And I did, and I've done a lot of traveling around the world and studying around the world. And it's just interesting that I have come back now because I had maybe too many children. I wanted a bigger house for less money, and I wanted to have a better safety net for my kids, to have extra help and people around. And all my brothers were here, and my parents and cousins, and a larger context to kind of like bring them up.
Yeah. Was so you hear a lot about when people are young and their family is involved in the military, and there's a lot of moving around and jumping around, and that can cause a lot of issues, especially with young children never being able to kind of really settle into one place. Was that an issue for you, of like moving all the time, or did you adapt well to that?
No, I grew up in Jackson, so I guess I would be the opposite of that.
Okay,
I never
okay.
got to go like.
Oh,
when I was
okay,
a kid,
okay,
I was
okay.
always here, but my parents would tell me stories about, just like really incredible things all over the world, and I was envious. I wanted those kinds of experiences, and Jackson is very plain.
Yeah.
It's very simple.
Yeah.
It has its own unique qualities and characters, but I just wanted more, and to see more, and I kind of blame that on my parents having exposed me to like a greater world out there. And then it was great. I highly recommend leaving, but I've been surprised at how nice it's been to come back.
And where did you go? Where did you leave to?
I went to Washington, D.C. for a year, right outside of D.C., and then I went to graduate school in Baltimore at the Maryland Institute College of Art, and then I stayed in Baltimore for 10 years. And then my husband and I decided that we could live anywhere, so we were going to get a camper and camp across America and decide where we wanted to live and spend like a year camping around. So we had an interesting experience getting rid of all of our things.
Yeah.
And then
The purge.
we had a serious purge. We lived in a giant Victorian square house had like 25 rooms. And we posted this epic estate sale where basically everything was like $1. We just needed to get rid of it. And it went viral. And we had a line down our block the morning of our estate sale. And it was so crazy.
That's wild.
It was. And people were like, they're like, there's people stealing stuff. I'm like, look, we don't need this stuff anymore. If they need to take it, they take it,
Yeah.
And so it's been kind of fun after like getting rid of all the things, being like, we kept a pod of all of my art and all of, irreplaceable items. And then we're like, the decision was, can this be replaced? Yes, then we'll get rid of it. And it was great, freeing experience to go from living in a giant house to living in a 32-foot camper. And we started on our fun journey across America because my husband's in tech. He can work remotely before it was cool with COVID.
Right.
And
now, was this traveling? Was this pre-kids?
we had a 1-year-old.
Okay.
And
Wow.
Yeah.
We gave her baths in the kitchen sink.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it was really easy. I mean, it was much easier than it is now. But then the problem was 2 weeks after we left, we found out I was pregnant. And that was not a part of the plan at
Yeah.
all. So we got as far as we could before we were like, okay, I cannot be pregnant. I cannot have a baby at a campsite.
Right.
That is not recommended. So we got like halfway across the country. Like, we can get to Denver and then we'll have the baby in Denver. We'll reevaluate. And then we ended up staying in Denver for 3 years.
What?
Wow.
This is awesome. What are you talking about?
So we kept finding, well, part of the problem was that we didn't have any stuff because we got rid of all our things. And so we had to find a furnished house, so a short-term rental that
Yeah.
was fully furnished. So we show up and we're like, there's sheets on the beds and towels hanging up and dishes in the cabinets. So like, this is the way to go.
A fancy hotel.
Yeah, Airbnb. And then
Yeah.
when we moved to Jackson, we didn't know what our long-term plan was. I was like, we just need to be close to my parents, close enough to walk in case my car breaks down. And we have walked to my parents' house multiple times, but it was an Airbnb rental, and and it's where I live now is still an Airbnb rental that we're doing like the same
Really?
kind of long-term. Like, hey, we showed up and the sheets were on the bed, thanks, and the blankets and pillows and everything, everything that you need.
So you could pick up at any time and go somewhere else, and it would be
Yes.
no big deal.
Yes. I have never purchased a home. I've always just rented.
Have you ever wanted to purchase a home?
Briefly.
Would you consider it now?
I don't know. It's so nice. It's
Yeah.
like a get out of jail free card, because a lot of times when people want to move or change, they're burdened by owning a house and having to get rid of this house and then being kept by that.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean,
So you sublet a house in
Mhm.
Jackson
I do.
that has all of everything furnished.
Yes.
how long have you been at this house now? Like, I love this.
Over 2 years, and
2 years.
all of our utility bills and everything. It's just easier that way.
Wow.
I don't know what to say.
I'm not your ordinary person here.
I know a guy who's made a living for himself and many people by doing corporate housing. So taking apartments and furnishing them, and
That's what the guy
they do,
who we
yeah.
rent from. That's what he had previously done, is had it just like for temporary workers. A lot of people in like the business of like fixing the power lines and stuff like that. Like if a storm comes through and they have to do a lot of
Right.
local temporary work, or nurses or
I
something.
mean, I'm just going to be completely honest with you right now. Just going to be completely honest with you. I love you and your husband and the fact that you guys did that. Like, I love that so incredibly much. The freedom of just whatever. Like,
You could leave tomorrow.
you could leave tomorrow and there would be no consequences.
It is quite liberating. In
Hell
fact,
yeah, it is.
when we came here, I was like, I don't know if I want my kids to grow up in Jackson like I did. So I think we'll just stay until everyone is potty trained, and then we'll reevaluate again. So
That's insane.
That's a good benchmark, though.
yeah, I know. I was
Potty
like,
trained.
that's, it makes things a lot easier
Yeah.
when you're not changing diapers and having accidents and changing clothes.
Right. Right.
Yeah, that's all. I'm so glad my son is 16.
Yeah, it's a whole different world.
God bless.
So what kind of things do you own in the house?
There is randomly one chair. I have that. It's funny because I'm like, from which era did each of the objects come from? So I have a chair that I found at an antique store in Baltimore, and it's called a ladies' chair. So it's like a upholstered chair, but it's really tiny. So like I fit in it, but my husband does not fit in it.
Good.
So
I like that.
it's like a petite. It's just like so one of the things I liked about Baltimore and that I did a lot of was antiquing and finding objects that had a lot of history and significance, because a lot of people came there, they immigrated there from other countries, and then went different directions or whatnot. But so there's like a repository of old objects.
I was actually born in Baltimore.
No way.
Yeah, at Franklin Square Memorial Hospital.
Oh dear, I know where that is.
Do you really? and then I was adopted when I was 3 days old.
No.
Yes.
That's
yeah.
amazing. Do you know where your birth parents are? Are they still in Baltimore?
Oh, we're friends on Facebook, but I've never met her. Like I've never
Should.
I know. Well, I was probably like the first time that I got sober. I had been sober for like 3 years maybe. And I really wanted to find out, like, at the very least, our son had just been born, and I wanted, I had no, history of health or anything. So I called the attorney that handled the adoption. I was like, hey, I kind of want to track her down. What do I do? And he was like, here's her name, and I literally just put it into Facebook, and it popped up. Yeah,
Wow.
and we've talked on the phone a few times, like, and my parents took me back to the hospital when I was probably 16 or 17. We went on a trip up there, and it's just a beautiful area, just beautiful. But I've never met her, and I always like.
Oh, you should.
I got to get up there, and I got to meet her. I got to. It's a beautiful place, absolutely beautiful.
Of
place.
all the places I've been, Baltimore is my favorite.
Yeah, I'm sure the antiques there are like insane too. Everything is old and historic and.
So this random chair has been through every house, through every move, and it's funny because even when we were leaving Denver, we had to like reevaluate. I really highly recommend moving out of state several times as an adult because it makes you reevaluate all of the things that you carry around.
Yeah.
And deciding that we were just gonna like get rid of everything was so interesting to see like the concept that we have as like holding on to objects and the kind of value that we give to objects and why certain things we keep and we hand down to other generations or we give to other people. And like when I left, I went to school at Delta State University, and when I left there, I had a big garage sale and I gave away a lot of my things. And then this friend that I had stayed in touch with for a long time, for years later, was like, oh, you gave me your red teapot, and every time I make tea, I think about you. And I was like, I had no idea that I did that.
Yeah.
Like, no clue. Like, I let it go and I forget, and I move on. But it's cool, the stories that we attach to the things that we have. And when you move across country, you're like, this really isn't worth renting. At the time when we moved, a rental truck to take everything would have been like $15,000. And so we were like, we could just buy all new furniture at that point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Did you get storage units from, in different cities
the pods. That's how we moved. Well, that's how we kept all of my art and all of the memorable things, like the things that were irreplaceable.
Yeah.
And some of them were like wedding presents or china or, family heirlooms, but like really just like one 10-foot by 10-foot by 6-foot storage pod. Like that's all.
Yeah. That's pretty impressive. Like what kind of art? What kind of
Okay, so
you keep on talking about this, like,
Yeah.
like
I
what?
went to Delta State University and I got a degree in painting. So I
Okay.
did all kinds of painting, watercolor painting, oil painting. And the end of my time there, I was really fascinated with fabric textiles. So I did silk painting. And that was really great because the silk paintings that I did, you could just like roll them up on this little tube, and all the paintings that I did could fit into one little poster tube, versus if I was doing frame. And I also did like framed canvas paintings, and those are cumbersome and large and take up a lot of space. And as I've moved like around the country, I've been like, oh, here, you can have this painting. Or it's like it becomes something that something that I made because we rented the houses that we lived in. I would leave something hanging in like each house, kind of like a relic of like my time there. But like I left a painting in the house in Denver, and then I left like this mirror that I made, this gold antique mirror that I refinished and fixed up at the house in Baltimore.
That is so cool. I find it fascinating that you don't have a connection to objects. It's like Marie Kondo times a million.
No, absolutely not. I'm not Marie Kondo.
It's just
Who is Marie
She's the joy of like letting go, and it's like,
Yeah.
Oh,
does this
yes,
item bring you
yes,
joy?
yes,
Keep
yes.
it. No, I have things that I keep, and that I have like I have my most valuable possessions are all of my sketchbooks. And so since I decided I wanted to be an artist when I was a teenager, I started keeping sketchbooks. And I took a class with Bob Pennebaker, who was a fine arts professor at Belhaven, I believe, but that's when I was in high school. He would teach in his studio that was at the old Rainbow Co-op in Fondren, which
Yeah.
is now Fondren
Yeah.
Fitness.
Right, right.
And he said that that was a requirement of his class. And if he ever saw you outside of class without your sketchbook, then you were no longer his student. Like he was
Wow.
like very adamant. Like this is the life of an artist, is that you take your sketchbook with you. And I went with him with the college class to Italy on their spring break trip. So I got a taste of when I was 17, a taste of the artist's life, the grown-up artist's life.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes, please. Thank you.
That's awesome. Holy crap.
So
I
my
had
most-
no idea about any of this.
I love it.
I just saw you. I just knew you from,
Yeah, no, I was about to say, oh yeah, I had to write a like quick biography for my 6-year-old in her kindergarten class for their birthday. They're like, oh, just write up a few sentences about their life. And I guess I could look it up for whatever I wrote. Her teacher was like taken aback. She's like, okay, I can't let the other parents see this because they'll never measure up to whatever you've said, like the 6 sentences about your, because she has had a really cool life,
Yeah.
the one that got to go camping across America when she was 1 year old and
Yeah.
all of that. Oh yeah. And so, also like part of my love of traveling, I guess my brothers also, I have 3 brothers and 2 of them worked in the airline industry. The third one was in the Air Force. So like at one point for a long time, all of my brothers worked with airplanes.
Which child are you?
I'm the second.
Okay.
And anyway, so I could fly on standby for years. I just needed a place to stay. And so when my firstborn was under the age of 2, they can fly free infant on lap. And so I was like, I'm going to go on as many trips. And I think she flew on a plane like 22 times or something like that before she was 2.
Wow.
And one afternoon, my parents we were in Baltimore and it was for spring break and we all wanted to go somewhere warm, but all of the flights, because it's standby, it's only space available.
Yeah.
So all the flights going anywhere remotely warmer than where we were full. And the only flight that they had 5 open seats on was to Buffalo, New York. And so we went in the snow to see Niagara Falls for the afternoon, and then we flew home after dinner. Like, we just spent like one day. We got up and we went and got coffee, and then we all went to the airport, hopped on this super empty flight, and then rented a car for $20, saw Niagara Falls in the snow. Then we grabbed some buffalo wings because we were in
Of
Buffalo,
course,
New
you
York.
got to.
And then we flew home in time for bed.
Time for bed.
What is going on?
That makes
And so, yeah, that was part of my 6-year-old's like kindergarten birthdays, my story of my life. Like, we can't tell the other parents how cool you are. It's not fair.
I never had that problem. It was never like, oh, Lana's too cool. Got to keep her away from the other kids.
No, that's definitely, well, I guess that happens when, I don't know, when you come back to Jackson, you're like, well, I got to live in some really cool places and do some cool things.
Yeah.
Because I'm curious, I guess. I'm an artist. I seek that kind of, I find it a little bit boring here, which is why I am helping this artist. My project that I'm working on right now
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
is the Pearl River Glass Conservatory. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Pearl River Glass Studio. But
The Wolf Studio?
Yes.
Okay, similar but different.
Okay.
The Wolf Studio is a ceramic. Well, she does ceramic and other traditional fine arts. And Andy Young, and hold on a second, I'm going to remember this guy's name, started the Pearl River Glass Studio, just so I can get my history correct. Reggie DeFries and him started the Pearl River Glass Studio in 1975.
Okay.
And it is still in operation
It
from
is
that.
very cool.
Where is
Oh,
it?
you've been there?
Yeah, I've been. I went on a
It's-
tour of it one time because I went to Millsaps and
Okay.
stay involved with the alumni, and they were doing alumni tours of Midtown, and that's one of the places that they took us through, and it was so cool.
Where is it?
So it's behind Millsaps, I think off of Millsaps. It's huge. There's 6 different buildings, warehouse buildings, and it covers like an entire city block. And so anyway, so Andy started this studio, glass studio, doing traditional stained glass restoration and fused glass. And I met him at the Jackson Garden Club tour 2 years ago. And I was like, I'm an artist and I need other artists to be around here. I need some place to go make art here.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, come down to the studio. I'll show you around. I'll tell you about my ideas. So his idea has been to start this glass conservatory. And I was like, oh, cool. I did something similar to that in Baltimore. I was on the founding board of the Baltimore Jewelry Center, which is like metalsmithing. So I've done, when I say art, I mean like done painting, some fiber weaving, printmaking, metalsmithing, just a scooch of welding. I'm not very good at welding.
That's so cool.
And then now I've been hanging out with Andy in the studio and helping him out and making glass.
So what exactly, like when you say making glass, like are you melting it? Are you getting like the glass rods and melting things together, or like are you using a kiln, or what, like are you breaking
Yes.
glass and fixing it with adhesive?
All of the above.
Yeah?
No, not fixing it with adhesive.
Okay.
That's not really.
Yeah, that shows you what I know. Yeah.
But yes, on the breaking glass sometimes. So with fusing glass, you're basically like melting it back together, and so you can reuse it as much as you want. So sometimes we'll make a piece and we're like, that's not very good. So we throw it on the floor, we break it with a hammer, we reconfigure it up. Stained glass, traditional stained glass, I've done a little bit of that. And then I've dabbled in the glass painting. There's actually about 15 artisans that are employed there, which is incredible that Jackson can support a business that can employ so many artists, that give creative people a regular job and income. So anyway, Andy's idea to do the glass conservatory is to offer up space for the public, anyone who's interested, to go and learn how to do these things, to pay to go to workshops, to have the access to the tools and the space to create traditional glass art.
That's awesome. Do you have where do you keep all your art? Like I'm desperately wanting to see this. Like,
I
do you have a website?
No,
Do you have
don't say those.
a
awful words.
website?
I hate computers. I think I open my laptop like twice a month.
You have no idea. When I got here earlier today, I feel like Daniel's probably like brain is completely broken. He was showing me his setup of all of his monitors and saying how incredibly excited he was. So I'm sure that is
foreign.
completely mind
Yeah,
melting
like, you don't like
for him.
computers. Oh my god.
I know. I do most things through my phone. And I have other friends who are like, I wish I could like bury this in the sand. Like, I wish I didn't have my phone.
Yeah.
Which I get. I primarily use this as my camera. I have like 27,000 pictures on my phone. And I did for a while date a photographer. So I wouldn't say that I have my art field or my art practice has any photography in it, but I greatly value and appreciate good photography.
Yeah. I actually went to the Brooks Institute of Photography and Film in Ventura, California. That's where I went to school.
Really?
Yeah. I'm an artist. I am a nerd. I am an artist at heart.
Okay.
I am
cool.
a complete nerd, though. That's the only thing.
No, I think there's a lot of similarities. And some of the cool things I did in Baltimore involved working with a lot of artists, doing artist community development. And I ran an artist housing building that had 63 apartments, and
Wow.
I filled them, and they were all like subsidized by different grants and government functions. And I'm totally going to say the technicalities of it wrong probably, but the short condensed version is that you had to be an artist, a practicing artist, in order to live there. And it was like a subsidy, like controlled rent. My apartment was $619 a month.
And
it
where?
was-
What city was this in?
This was in Baltimore, and
Oh,
it was
wow.
beautiful,
Wow.
and it was brand new construction, and
Oh, wow.
and there was a gallery on the main floor in the lobby, and I managed the artists and like filled up the apartment building when it was opened. Like the whole building was full in like less than a month.
Wow.
Wow.
And so I worked with the developers who started that project. I even did like a Bank of America commercial because the project was so successful that they came and they like, because they were one of the people that helped provide some of the funding for it. And they even built like another building. And anyway, so I've done some cool things.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But I got to meet a lot of artists, and it was kind of like this funnel. And a lot of people were moving to Baltimore at the time, and this was like 15 years ago, because it was so cheap to live there. And like I had a studio that was like $150 a month in an old abandoned warehouse with a bunch of other artists. And that was just really not attainable in New York City or in Philly, or even really in DC. And so like there were a lot of, and you could easily, I loved taking the train. I missed the train. I would take the train to DC and the train to Philly and New York frequently. And so it was just, Baltimore is a good place. There's lots of good stuff that goes on there.
Yeah, I want to I want to go back there. It's been, God, like it's been a long time since I've been there, and we were on like a time crunch, and we didn't really have time to see the sights, and but it's absolutely a beautiful city. I am just incredibly intrigued right now. I had no idea about any of this.
Oh yeah, you
And
just
I-
met me, and I'm just like your average human being walking around on this planet, you know,
Yeah.
bumping along.
Yeah, I mean it's incredible. Like I don't know. Like I feel like this is like the beginning, and like your husband, we got to get him in here. You know what I mean? Like
I'm gonna definitely send my husband in. He's a whole another character. He's a fifth generation Mainer, and yes, from Maine.
oh, got it.
And they are crazy people up there because they withstand winter, like 10-month winters.
Yeah.
But it's a magical, beautiful place up there. And every time he would take me up to Maine, I'd be like, this is so much like Mississippi. This is like Mississippi, but not hot.
Yeah.
But it's just like there's so many similarities. I mean, but maybe slightly more beautiful to look at. I mean, there's Acadia National Park. I don't know if you've ever seen photos of, but it's
No.
incredible. It's I like call it Maine magic. But anyway, so I will send him up here to be on your talk show because he's quite a character.
Yeah. The tech part. I mean,
He is a tech, like
what
super
exactly?
tech nerd.
Like okay, tech is.
I can't even. It's a large field, and I will not do him justice to explain his. He has a very.
Is he a programmer? Is he a coder? Like
He
what?
he can do all things.
Okay.
He is actually like a tech genius, and he's self-employed, and like for one time, for one period, like one of his clients was the city of Chicago, and like for a while he was like doing projects for a country in West Africa, and I mean, like what he can do, not very many other people in the country can do.
Yeah, we need to get him up here.
And I won't even try to explain it because when I first met him, I'm like, so you're speaking another language?
Yeah.
And it took me a while to kind of understand what he was talking about, but I won't do it justice myself.
So how did you and your husband meet?
Oh, I was about to say that.
Yes.
That's a good story. So one of the things I was doing in Baltimore, there was a new mural project in my neighborhood, which was like the arts district. And I'm helping this mural project get up and running, and it's run by this incredible artist. But at the time, I think he was 23, and the bank, I can't remember which bank it was. It was like, oh, we want to help you fund this project. And he's like, oh, I think we could do it for X amount of money. And, after the first month, he ran out of money. And so we had artists coming in from all over the world to do murals in our neighborhood. And since we ran out of money, we needed to do a fundraiser. And we did a dance party in a warehouse. And I think that it was a dance-off between some group of people in Philly and some maybe in Baltimore or DC. But anyway, so at the same warehouse where my studio is. It was called Area 405. And so I was at the door taking the money, and it was a whopping $2 to get in. And
this was up in
this is in Baltimore.
Baltimore.
And so it was a $2 entry fee. And I mean, there's like a bunch of grungy artists and musicians. And I was like, okay, I've dated plenty of these and I'm not interested in them. And they're giving me crumpled up dollar bills. And even one person gave me quarters. Okay. So my husband walks in with his friends and he's wearing like a clean polo shirt and he has a fresh haircut. And he hands me a $20 bill. He's like, these are from my 5 friends. So it was like maybe $10. He's like, you keep the change. And I was like, oh, sweet. You want to support my fundraiser and the murals in my neighborhood. Thank you.
$20. Amazing.
And so like we go on it's a really fun dance party. I think at some point I'm like standing up on the bar, like seeing all the fun. And when it was over and everybody was leaving, I was standing at the door before we close up and clean up. And he's like, hey, when is the next dance party? And I'm like, oh no, this is a mural fundraiser project. Like we have another fundraiser. So I took the postcard for the mural project and I wrote my number and my name on it. And that's when the song, Here's My Number, Call Me Maybe, came out. Like that song came out like that month when I was like, here's my phone number on a postcard. And then he called me like the next day and I was like, well, I have all these other fun things I'm going to do. And he's like, well, I'll come with you. I'll show up.
Hell yeah.
That is
Awesome, man.
cool.
How long have y'all been married now?
10 years.
10 years.
Yes.
That is wild.
That is wild. I want to get this guy up here right now, man.
Oh, don't worry. I'll send him your way. I'm sure he's maybe a little envious that I get to come up and do this first.
Well, he'll get over that. Tell us a little bit about this. All right, so the Glass Studio nonprofit, is that
Yes.
what you were talking about earlier?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what the nonprofit status is official. We officially have our nonprofit status.
So is that a 501(c)(3)?
Yes.
Okay.
And
Wow.
so
you
we're-
got that. That's not easy to do.
Yes, there is a team of people. It is not just me.
Yeah.
And we're working on finding more permanent board members. But I am the temporary executive director of the
Sweet.
project.
Look at you.
And I know. I'm like, well, I can only work if my children aren't sick. So, like I'm somewhat not flexible. I need to be flexible in this position. And they're like, that's okay. We're not like, I don't need to do 40 hours a week, 9 to 5 here. But we have a space. We have a warehouse. I mean, the space is in what we call Building 6 at Pearl River Glass Studio. And right now it's set up, half of it is set up for a figure drawing class. Mm-hmm. And then the other half, they're doing printmaking and glass fusing. Okay. And then there's another building where we're setting up the stained glass classes. And we're developing the website as we speak.
Okay.
And we'll be listing the classes that we're hoping are going to go live in the next couple of months.
Wow. That's soon.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, this has been something that we've been working towards for over a year.
Okay, so
That's awesome.
absolutely. Say my wife and I want to, well, she's in nursing school now, so time is kind of, it's not a whole lot of free time, but say, like, are there classes like on the weekends that
That is the plan.
people could come and learn
Right.
glass and
Yeah, so you can do an intro to stained glass. And so I wanted to model it similar to the way that we had set up the Baltimore Jewelry Center, which is where you have a space for teaching and teachers who come in and show people how to use the tools and best practices. And then students can return and just rent the space. So let's say you don't want to do stained glass or you can't do fusing in your home or in your garage, but you can come up to the studio and rent time. And you can go up there and use the tools and use the space and keep your stuff in like a drawer where you keep your pieces, and then you can assemble in whenever time is flexible for you. But the initial like classes will be like weekend classes, things that are accessible for people who also have full-time jobs.
that's awesome.
I think so.
Yeah, I'm going to be all over that.
And also, there are figure drawing classes that happen there regularly.
What is what are you talking
figure
about?
drawing.
Figure drawing.
So
You're saying finger drawing.
a note. So like they have a nude model, which
Okay.
is like the traditional way of learning how to figure draw.
Yeah.
And so it pretty much is 18 years and up.
Okay.
Just for that, because it's kind of an adult setting at that point. But they have a live model who does different positions, and then you can sit around and move your easel and paint or draw inspired by that.
That would be super, super cool. This is
Yeah.
one of my clients he's a divorce attorney, but his heart and soul is in painting. And I don't know that he knows about this. Is this something
It's
that has been
pretty
going on for a
low-key.
minute?
Oh, for years.
Oh, really?
Yes. It's
Okay.
something, it's like a project for Andy. So Andy Young, who started the Pearl River Glass Studio, is an extraordinary artist and prolific. I mean, he's always painting. I mean, always making, always doodling, always creating something, ideas every day. And a lot of times I'll go in there and kind of my role has been to work with him towards making this conservatory a reality, but also like in exchange, he's been teaching me about glass art, and I've learned how the things in the studio work. And I've helped him with some of his paintings and projects and ideas. And the figure drawing class is really because he wants to have the ability to do figure painting and drawing like every other weekend. And he's invited other people, and they have a little sign, and if you drive by, you could see it's like, every other Saturday, $10, stop in.
Say I wanted to come and take a tour of the facility.
So we do that.
Yeah.
And what we're going to do, and we've had a group come in recently, I believe it was from like Wisconsin, far away, very, very far away. They came in on a bus and they did a tour like through the South, but the Pearl River Glass Studio was on their tour. And Melissa, who runs the front desk and the online presence of the studio, she's so educated, so well acquainted with how it all works. And she's such a great teacher, and she leads tours. Will take about an hour, and she goes through all the buildings and she talks about the different techniques and how they work. And you get to see the production studio. Like currently right now, one of the projects that they're working on is the state capitol glass. So I think the House Representatives dome came down.
Wow.
And they are refurbishing all of that old stained glass.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. And one of the artisans there, he actually went to the same, where I went to graduate school at MICA. He was there, but a few years before I was there. He is extraordinary. The type of glass painting that he does is the same exact method and technique that they did in the medieval ages.
Wow.
And to see some of his work is incredible.
That's awesome.
So I highly recommend, if you're interested, to call up and talk to Melissa and get on the books and schedule, and she'll walk you around. What we're thinking in going forward is that like we do a tour of the space in exchange for a donation to the new conservatory.
Okay. That's pretty awesome.
It is a really cool tour.
Yeah,
I highly
have you been to
recommend
it?
Yeah.
Yes.
You
She
did
said
do
that-
it?
Yes, because it's close to Millsaps.
Right. Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm
Your
just,
brain has been melted at least 10 times.
You're like, you don't
Gone
even know
here.
what's going on.
I woke up at 4 a.m. just ready to go, and I had just been like, just completely beat. The fact that I'm here right now is just, it's a miracle.
If you started at 4 a.m., I have serious respect for you.
Yeah. My mom would say your get up and go is gone up and went.
Man, you got to do what you got to do, you know? Yeah, you got to do what you got to do. What else is going on in your life?
Well, I recently tried out a hip. So here's my problem with Jackson. It's just, it's not very exciting.
No. It's not.
Well, I mean, it is if
I
you.
guess it depends on
It's
your
all
definition.
about. Yeah, it's all about how you look at things.
Okay, how about this?
All about that.
It's not very exciting to me, and maybe some other people. But there are a lot of great things happening in Jackson, and I'm totally on board with getting it to be a cooler place, like trying to recruit some of my old friends who live in LA or in New York. I'm like, y'all, I'm back, so you should come back.
Yeah.
And let me create some cool stuff that we can do when you come back. So recently, last week, I tried a hip hop dance class
Go on.
at, hold on, I'm going to look up the name of the studio. It was so fun. I woke up the next morning dancing. Like I danced in my car the entire drive for both of my school pickups. And it was great because it's the same. I loved supporting an artist, and I believe that dancers are artists. And it was so cool to be in the presence of like an extremely talented dancer and try to dance like her. And
Was she cool with the fact that you weren't a
yeah.
professional?
I was like, I was more than 10 years older than everybody else there. I was like, I feel real old and real slow. But the thing is, it was all about having a good time.
Yeah.
And I did do that. It's the House Dance Studio, I believe is what it's called. Let me double check.
Is that the one in Ridgeland?
No, it's it's right across from Crazy Cat restaurant. Crazy Cat Eatery, Eat Up at the Canton Mart. Yes.
Oh.
Hold on, let me see.
Yeah. So that's
It was
a pretty central
Yeah.
area.
It was great. It only took me 5 minutes to get there from my house. That's the other thing that's nice about living in Jackson is that there's no traffic.
Yeah.
And
No.
things are pretty close. I mean, you do have to have a car. There were several years in Denver where I didn't have a car and I walked everywhere,
Right.
which was really wonderful. I was probably in much better shape. And I knew that when I moved to Jackson, I was like, I'm not going to walk to as many places and I'm not going to be as in good a shape because of that.
Yeah.
I'm going to actually have to like go to a gym or something. Let me try to
Or
find
take dance classes.
There you go.
That seems like the way to go.
Yeah,
Let's
absolutely.
continue this.
I've always been a fan of dance. It's called House Studio.
House studio.
Yeah.
I've never heard of it, which is surprising
neither.
with it
pretty
being
small.
close.
But it was really fun, and she like has the music really loud and like has the lights. So like at the end, you're like doing this dance choreography that she teaches you, and she puts on all these lights, and then all the other girls like in the class, they like put their phone up on the front to record themselves doing the dance.
Of course.
I would
Absolutely.
never.
Yeah, you gotta put everything on TikTok.
I would not be TikToking that.
I
but
did it. Against my I'd be like, wow, why would I take a recording of myself doing this crazy dance when I'm not very good at it? But it was really fun because then when I came home and my kids were like, I was like, do you want to see a video of the dance I just did? They loved it. They
Let me
thought
see it.
it was
That's
great.
great.
I'm not showing you the
Yeah,
video.
you are. Yeah.
That'll have to be offline later.
But that was fun. It's also been like really cool to be to try to be an artist as a role model for my kids, and then like so the Pearl River Glass Studio also has a gallery in their in the front building when you go in. They have 6 different buildings, but the building one has a gallery, and so every year they have all the artisans who work there have the opportunity to showcase their work, and it could be one guy makes handcrafted guitars, and other people are traditional painters, and anything you want to put in that you've made. And so I did a cool octopus plate that I had painted, and then I did a mosaic cloud with some like scrap glass, and my kids watched me make it, and then they were so excited. They're like, we can't wait to go to the gallery and see Mom's art up on the wall. And I was
Aw.
like, that's cool.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. And I really appreciate you taking time and energy to create space for artists, because for me, I do art just on the side, like traditional art, drawing, painting, whatever. But I also do stand-up comedy, which to me, creating spaces for artists is something I'm really passionate about too, because we don't have a lot of space
Yeah.
for performance art, for your more traditional painting, drawing. It's I wish Jackson had more of an art scene. Maybe I'm just missing it.
It's there. It's very small,
Mm-hmm.
but it definitely could use to be. It could use a lift.
Yeah.
And I believe that one of the things with the Glass Conservatory will be like taking that to the next level. And making it more accessible to the public and making it more fun and being like, oh, because there's been this popular thing called like, what is it? Like wine, sip and paint or some dumb thing where a bunch of people who are not artists go and they drink wine and they paint some canvas and the art, bless their hearts, the artists who will sell their souls to do sip and wine nights or whatever, to lead a bunch of drunk ladies to paint a simple painting. There's a lot of people who want to do that with art. So it's really easy to do fusing. Like there's no threshold of talent whatsoever required to fuse glass. You just like are decorating a cake. Like you just throw a bunch of sprinkles and chunks on and then you melt it together and you have a picture. And anybody can do it. And it's really fun. So we're working on doing more of that. There has been some glass classes that have come through the studio, but it's really just been based on availability and like time, and really if Andy wants to do it. So like there's the Mississippi Teachers Association or the Artist Teachers Association, and they come through like once or twice a year, and they'll have like a workshop day where they come in and they make something, and it's always cool. Or like sometimes one of his friends is a junior high art teacher, and she brought her kids in one time and they made tiles, like maybe a 10-inch tile, and it's fun. There's glass paint, and then it's like a permanent piece of art, like unless you throw it on the floor.
Yeah. We went to what's the place in Flowood? It's the ceramic studio. What's the name of it?
I have no idea, but I know what you're talking. Like they had
It's
this,
right next to Soulshine. Marge and I went.
know
It
what
was
you're talking
awesome.
about.
It was awesome. It was so incredible. Like you get to pick out what you want, right? And then you paint it,
yes.
and then you leave
Paint
it with
My
them.
Way is usually, or when I was a kid, they had like a Paint It My Way that was over off of Pear Orchard Road. Like I don't know if you're from Jackson. Are you from Jackson?
No, I grew up in Dallas.
Oh,
Moved
okay.
here in 2005 though.
Okay. Well, there was like a Blues Brothers restaurant, or maybe like some Blues barbecue restaurant, and then a Margarita's taco place.
Red Hot and Blue.
Yes.
The Margaritas is still there.
Oh,
Oh, is
Lord.
it?
Yeah, it is still
Oh, the
there.
one right there at
Pear Orchard,
Orchard
and
and
County Line.
County Line.
So they had a Paint It My Way, and I went there when I was a kid, and that was cool in the 90s.
Yeah.
It's good that it's still cool now.
Yeah, I love that like artistic stuff
you-
is coming out. Like
you are going to love the Glass Conservatory. It's really awesome.
there's not a question in my mind.
And Andy has just like pallets of art that he's made, like because he's like constantly making, and so there's all this material and stuff and like old ideas and projects, and I'm like, okay, because he's thinking about retiring, but like what's the next stage of the studio life, that the production of what's going on there, and he really would love to teach and to make it accessible to others. That's always been something people are interested in.
Yeah, another thing that he could do is he could employ me to come and set up a podcast studio and produce said podcast studio, and take his reach to the next level of being able to help people.
Well,
Pass that along, will you?
yeah, for sure. But like once we have it open and running, we'll be doing all kinds of press releases and pushing it on the internets and webs.
On the interweb.
said by the woman who hates a computer. The internet's
All of those
on the interwebs.
those magical places. It's really funny. There's a line by the comedian C.K. Louis C.K.
Louis C.K.
Sorry, it took my brain a minute to load.
Yeah.
He was like, he does a skit about the people getting the internet on the airplane, and he's like,
Yeah.
it's going.
Yeah,
to
it has to
outer
go to space. You're flying in a chair in the sky.
It has to go all the way to outer space. And so I taught that to my kids when they're like waiting for something to load. And then my 4-year-old the other day was telling my 2-year-old, it's going to outer space.
Yeah.
Okay, be patient.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite. I mean, he's had some controversy, but
I know.
I'm Louis C.K. all the way. All the way.
I'm a big fan of his, but that one is that line I use the most.
Yeah, he's super talented.
But we also, my husband and I love his comedy, and there was a show that he did, and he calls it a bang bang, where you eat a full meal at one place, and you go to another place and you eat another full meal. And so, like, you go to a restaurant, you order all your food, you eat all your food, and then it's like, hey, let's do a bang bang, and let's go to Waffle House and eat another full meal right now.
That is so much meals.
Have you never heard that?
No, I
I've
haven't.
never had it.
So we talk about having a double meal. We're like, oh, do you want to do a bang bang? Yeah, okay, I'm down.
I love it. I love it. I love
Sounds
it.
like a good date.
Absolutely. All right, we're almost out of time, but tell us a little bit about what does the next year look like for you? You've touched a little bit about it. What is the next year looking like for you?
I do not have a crystal ball.
We're talking
Sure,
about
sure.
a person who can up and leave her house at any time. I think you're missing the point of what it's like to be an Ashby.
I still want to know. I still want to know what's
no
going on in that
idea.
brain.
One of my kids going to start kindergarten,
Yeah.
and that's a big deal. And what my oldest child is graduating from high school, and what is going to happen? We don't know.
Yeah.
We are, going to help maybe open the door so he can fly away and, do what he chooses. But we're
Yeah.
definitely not the people to be like, you should go to college or you should go do whatever. Like, you choose,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely not your average folks here.
I'm
But-
getting that.
And so what does the next year hold? Opening the studio.
Right, that's gonna be big.
Conservatory, having space to go regularly make things and opening it up to the public in a way that's going to be exciting, to reconnect with other artists that I know in the area and bring them in. Like I'm so excited to be inviting other artists that I know to come in to do like a big opening party or big opening night or several possibly.
Yeah.
And goodness, what does the next year hold? I don't know.
That's fair.
I'm hoping to go to Greece this summer. We'll
Okay.
see.
All right.
That's to be determined. I have to. Of course, my passport expires during the week of the trip to Greece for my cousin's wedding.
Yeah, I might want to look into that.
And so
maybe
I'm
get
like,
that fixed.
yeah, I have to. It requires several steps, but also having a bunch of small kids is really day to day.
Right.
And
Yeah.
maybe a year from now, I won't have to buy diapers anymore.
That
would be
Wait, how old is your youngest?
nice.
2.
2.
Woof. I know. Well,
Yes. Yes.
That could be in the cards, and I
Yeah.
hope for you that it
Thank
is.
you. Thank you.
Yeah.
What
So
are the things that are happening right now, other than the studio, in your own personal artistic world?
I don't my own art world. I don't know.
Okay. That's fair.
Yeah, that's okay.
I don't know.
That's fair.
It sounds like you spent a lot of time creating this space for people and having that.
Well, I want to make
To
things
come up.
too.
Yeah.
Well, actually, what I would like to do, I took a lamp working workshop a year ago,
Mm-hmm.
and it's basically low risk, small scale glass blowing. And I have some of the tools and some of the materials, but what you really need is a dedicated space and ventilation. And so the plan is to set up a small bench with ventilation to do that in the conservatory space. And I really am excited to get into doing that more.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
That sounds really, really cool.
So I watch people, I would love to learn to blow glass someday, but that is like a whole nother bridge
Yeah,
in
that's.
country.
You can do it though.
I mean, I
it's
could get there, but
yeah.
it's not
something you pick up overnight.
it's not readily accessible right now in Jackson. And what I'm working with is expanding what we're starting to have available and making this place, a more fun, exciting, cooler place to be.
Absolutely.
There's people that are doing that. There's stuff that's happening in Bellhaven and the places all over. There's people that are really invested here. And what we don't have yet is an outlet for creative people So I'm working on making that.
I think that's
I love it.
awesome.
I love it. Well,
Wonderful.
it is wonderful, and I honestly am going to be probably swinging through there and probably spending more time there than I'd like to admit, and that's okay. But we are so grateful to you for coming tonight and hanging out with us. And what's your husband's name?
Ephraim.
Ephraim?
Yeah, we also have a bunch of interesting names in our house.
Okay, well, give Ephraim my number,
I will.
and
I'll send him up here.
Yeah.
He's a fellow redhead.
Oh, good.
He's fiery. Very fiery.
awesome.
We tend to be.
Yes. I'm attracted to redheads. Like many of my best friends in my life have been redheads.
Yeah.
Multiples.
Yeah.
I love it.
I'm like,
It's a thing. We gravitate towards certain people.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well,
Yes.
we'll get them on here. Thank you so much again. Lana Banana, thank you so much for coming up here.
course.
And ladies and gentlemen, we will see you next week with, I do believe that Morgan will be here next week, yes?
We're in.
Yes, Morgan
Yep.
will be here next week. And that is it for us tonight. Thank you so much for the 7,622 people that watched this. Thank you so much. You guys are awesome. And we'll see you next week.
Am I supposed to dance?
You don't have to.